Hello and welcome once again to Radical Freedom. I'm your host, Kurt Waldrop. Now, with snowstorms still hitting parts of the country as I film this, that's April of 2018, I think it's time for a discussion about so-called global warming, aka climate change. Now, apparently the Journal of Science came out recently with an article suggesting that atmospheric nitrogen, the gas most common in the atmosphere, actually helps to mitigate the effects of CO2, carbon dioxide. So, based on that, they concluded that the long-term effects of global warming are far less than previously concluded. So, this is a sentiment agreed with by 48% of the American Meteorological Society and over 30,000 other scientists that signed a petition to state their belief that man-caused global warming is actually not established scientific fact. Now imagine that. An active science journal that is peer-reviewed had the guts to state this. Now, I've been maintaining for a long time now that global warming, climate change, has been a ruse based on how data is collected and how the wildly inaccurate computer models that are used for its predictions. Now, more about this shortly. First, I'd just like to take a look at a few of the predictions made by climatologists since the 1970s. Now, please recall, all of these claims were considered to be rock-solid science at the time, and if you said that you didn't think this was going to happen, then you would have gotten called a science denier. In 1970, a new ice age was predicted that would be in place by the year 2000. In 1976, it was predicted that global cooling would cause a world war as growing seasons became shorter and there was less food for people. In 1989, it was predicted that global warming and rising sea levels would wipe coastal cities and even entire island nations off the map by the year 2000. In 1990, we were told that we had only 5 to 10 years to save the rainforests. Yet, last I checked, they were still there. By 1999, we were told that the Himalayan glaciers would be gone within 10 years. In 2000, we were told that snow would soon be a thing of the past. In 2007, we were told that global warming would cause fewer hurricanes. In 2008, we were told that the Arctic would be ice-free by 2013. In 2012, we were told that global warming would cause, wait for it, more hurricanes. Basically, global warming causes the world to be hotter and colder. It makes things drier and wetter. It makes both more and less hurricanes at the same time. Huh? Well, here it is. 2018, no ice age came. No cities were washed away by the rising sea. We still sometimes have really cold winters. Sometimes we have really hot summers. Now, when I was a kid, we used to call this weather. Yeah, crazy thing that. Now, remember earlier when I said I had an issue with the way they collect temperature data for all those projections and how all those projections have been shown to be wrong? Well, there's a weather station that may have been set up, say, in 1890, a few miles from New York City. Well, slowly, it's taken over by urban growth, but the weather station isn't moved. The weather station might start off in an open field, then as the city slowly encroached, it might have been placed eventually on top of a building. The roof of that building might later be covered in tar. Later, perhaps, a central heating and cooling system would be added to that roof, and the hot air blowing onto that same area where the weather station is obviously going to give higher readings. The stations that were taken over by cities obviously were going to give warmer readings than those that have remained in rural areas. For the purposes of looking at climate change, they all are averaged together. Now, when you look at readings over the years from weather stations in rural areas, there's been very little change since 1900 except for having some years warmer, some years colder. Remember, weather. Compare those to the ones in urban areas that slowly have just gotten warmer and warmer over time. Now, you would think that the weather stations in these cities would be moved, or that the obviously bad readings would be removed from the average. But that didn't happen. This is science so bad that a middle school general science student could figure out that it needs to be corrected. But many countries are basing national policy on this. Now, add to the issue that meteorological computer models have told us back in 2004 that there would be no snow left by 2014. These models are considered the ultimate when it comes to predicting our dire future. But there is a simple exercise that should be able to find out just how reliable these computer models really are. Now, given all the data, they're supposed to predict average global temperatures 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, or even 100 years into the future. So, it seems like if you just take all the data that we have from, say, 1900 to 1990, should be able to accurately predict the climate for, I don't know, last year, but it can't. We should be able to get a computer prediction telling how hot or cold 1950 was if we just put in all the data up to 1949. But it can't. Why are we buying into this anyway? That's ridiculous. It's beyond idiotic. Back in 2014, the Georgia Institute of Technology professor Judith Curry, who chairs the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, was asked about the Obama administration's report on climate change. So her response was, this is her speaking, "I'm mystified as to why President Obama and John Kerry are making such strong and indefensible statements about climate change. Their case is very weak." When we're told that human activity is significantly impacting our climate, well, I'd like to point out that one volcanic eruption can easily put more carbon dioxide and other junk into the atmosphere in one day than all of humanity and all of our history. Also, consider some things that are not taken into account in these computer models. These include, the most abundant greenhouse gas of all, which would be water vapor. We also seem to be ignoring the source of all potential heat on Earth, that is the sun. And we know the sun has cycles where it gets a little warmer and a little cooler over a long period of time. So, how can we have a legitimate scientific claim about temperatures on Earth that don't take these basic facts into account? Yes, climate change does happen. Do we want the average temperatures of the 1930s? Remember, that's still the hottest decade on record. Or do we want the temperatures of 1500? Much colder. Or do we want Roman imperial temperatures, or Ice Age, or what? What temperature is it supposed to be? Climate science seems to have moved from the realm of science to the realm of religion. The worst part to me of this new faith is that it's trying to repeat the errors of Catholicism in the Middle Ages. You see, to claim that global warming may not be happening is heresy. And while no people are being burned at the stake just yet, there are serious calls for scientists that dispute global warming dogma to be shunned, to lose their jobs, and even serious calls for criminal charges against them. Best of all, this religion cannot be proven wrong. Remember, if we have a warmer than average year, it's global warming. If, on the other hand, we have a year that's colder than average, well, it's still global warming. Well, that's my rant on global warming. I'm sure that you have your own ideas. Just to let you know, I did read an awful lot about this before I did it. I wanted to actually read both sides. There are some interesting papers that do suggest climate change is happening, but there's also some really good papers that shoot down all of their points. I do hope you'll give me a thumbs up below. I hope you'll subscribe. And also check out my book, Radical Freedom, on Amazon.com. Till next time, this is Kurt Waldrop. Stay free, my friends. Bye.